whenever signal spreading happens, there is overlapping between any two channels. So this should not happen. And how we can exactly avoid it? Because as you can see, there is overlapping between everything. So we want to avoid it. How do I avoid it? We can avoid it by using guard bands between signals. So what we'll do in this guard band is that we'll make sure, so this star mark indicates that only through this channel I will be transmitting signal. So star mark is over here as well as in 5. And how many channels are left as it is? So there are 3 channels through which I am not transmitting any signal. So this is 3S. So now even though there is spreading of signal over the medium, so even though signals are fully stretching, but there is this gap, so there is no interference happening. So this avoids overlapping. So this is by implementing 3S rule, we can avoid adjacent channel interference. So this is 3S rule. And coming on to 10S rule. So let's see what is 10S rule. So in 10S rule, what we'll do is, so in 10S rule, what we'll do is, we'll try to make sure any two access points that which are operating in the same region have a difference of 10 dB. So 10 dBm. So here dBm is something that which measures the power, and power is directly related to the amplitude. So here let's assume the height to be the amplitude value. So let's say I am trying to transmit 5 dBm over channel number 1, and as I said here, anyhow we are maintaining 3S kind of difference between any two signals, and here the other AP I will make it to operate at a amplitude level of that which is having, let's say 15 dBm I will make use here. So the difference between 5 dBm and 15 dBm is 10 dBm. So in 10S rule we will make sure, and this also brings in the okay. Here basically it brings up signal strength difference using dBm. That's the main thing. And over here we can clearly see that the signal over that access point is dominating over the other one, that is having just 5 dBm. So using this we can make sure how operate access points work. So this is about 10S rule. So in a similar way, let's take up the next concept, that is dynamic frequency hopping. So dynamic frequency hopping, in other words, it's also directly related to something called as spectrum modulation. You might have gone through that in your engineering days. So basically it's an invention that which was like, we got to praise her. It's an invention by a woman, and she is beauty with brains. Her name is Hedy Lamarr. So she was the one because of which we are able to use Wi-Fi and all those technologies. And so here in like bandwidth being a finite quantity, it's very finite. So we cannot keep on using other frequency values. It's very finite. So the main motto of digital communication is to make sure to decrease the bandwidth, while transmitting any signal, so that we can transmit more signals, parallel signals altogether. So now it so happens that spectrum modulation operates in the exact opposite way. If your signal is taking only small space, here you are trying to spread the signal over an entire bandwidth using something called as pseudo-random sequences, such that even there is a third party who is trying to like penetrate into your communication, he won't be in a position to decrypt it. So basically, this spectrum technology was first used in military purposes. So that if there is any communication between, like, let's say India is trying to communicate the other base that what they are up to, or they want a refill of like all those bullets and all, and let's say they are trying to talk over a like radio frequency, and the enemy team can they can penetrate into that signal and they can get to know. But using this spread spectrum, so it so happens that, let's say, in digital modulation, it so happens that for bit 1 we will be using one frequency. Let's say now let's assume that this to be frequency f1, and this is being used for bit 0, and let's say this is for frequency 2 for bit 1. Now the thing is, it's very easy to see or decrypt what kind of frequency they are trying to send, and we can get to know bit 1 and what is bit 2. But what if frequency keeps on hopping, or selection of frequency is dependent randomly? So we don't know the sequence. So it so happens that first I will send bit 1 in frequency f1. So now bit 1 has been transmitted. Next, I will not make use of frequency f2. Instead of this f2, I will make sure to send, I will make use of something called as pseudo random sequence generator, such that the next signal will be transmitted over, next bit will be transmitted over frequency f6. The next bit will be transmitted over some frequency f4. Such that when this is happening, frequency is randomly hopping, it's not in a sequence. So even though we call it as pseudo random, like pseudo is false, even though this is happening randomly, but only the person in the transmitter knows that it is generated via it has a specific pattern. Only the transmitter will know, transmitting person will know, and the receiving person will know. So this is called as spectrum. It so happens that a signal that which requires only two frequencies. Now what we are trying to do is, we are trying to transmit the same signal over the entire bandwidth. So that's how whatever messages that we transmit cannot be decrypted by the enemy party. So whatever inventions are there were first used in military purposes. Only then, after several years, they were made for local people to use. So this is about dynamic frequency selection. Thank you.
कैसे करना है इसको?